gonna make the profiles boom, 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 boom. What they is, I'm gonna tell you exactly what it is, and I'm gonna tell you what it ain't. What it is real talk in real life by a real one who really did it. And what it ain't is no added preservatives, no frivolous talk, no bullshit, man. Right here on Gunner's Profiles, we get it in a real way. And as you can tell by that thumbnail right there, yes, indeed, I'm about to write graffiti all over the bus, right? We're talking about Huerito Gratton, Robert Huerito Gratton, right? From Modesto, California. And his impact on Northern California, the gang culture, how he got down. Oh, we're going to style and profile on this one, indubitably, right? Now, Huerito Gratton, he's a very well-known figure when it comes to up north, Northern California, the Norteños. Everybody should know or does know who this character was and is. Now, you got to understand, in the 90s, this vato was out there. Everybody in the Central Valley, from fucking Sacramento back to Tulare County, knew exactly who this character was and how this individual had status and was pushing his narrative and rocking it a certain way. Now, I remember everything that went into that because I was around about that time. I just got released out of California Youth Authority, so I was rocking with the best of them. So I was there in the parque that day when the motherfucking missive was read out loud. I was there when the Norte law was implemented. I was there when a lot happened. But let's take it back a little bit further. To profile Huerito Gratton, you have to know the ins and outs of what made him and got him to that point. He grew up in Modesto, California. And in Modesto, California, man, for anyone that doesn't know, it's a very grimy area, man. It's always been very hood orientated. There's a lot of old school barrios, you know. A lot of barrios in the south side of Modesto, the west side of Modesto, who have been banging for many, many years, man, and representing for that Norte cause. You know, there have been Southsiders that have implemented and set foundation flags in Modesto, but for the most part, it's always been recognized and known as a city of Norteños, a northern city. Now, nowadays, of course, you have a lot of fluctuation of dropouts that are invading, as well as a lot of different other gangs. But at the same time, and the Norteños will always be the dominant. They will always have the numbers. They will always be the most looked at group, the most sought after group in the city of Modesto. And Huerito fell right into that category, man. He was functioning alongside a lot of well-known Norteños at that time. And he started to move up through the ranks and start to become well-known in the city. Now, of course, through the 80s and 90s, this vato found himself incarcerated, just like so many others do. I myself found myself incarcerated on behalf of the people and the gente. That's part of the game, man. You got to understand and you got to know that if you're in the mix, Sasuke, guess what's going to happen? Two things, life or death, right? And Sasuke, we ain't talking about living all nice. So he found himself incarcerated. He started to do life on the installment plan, meaning he was in and out of prison constantly. Well, once upon a time, upon doing some time, he found himself in the right places at the right time to move up in the organization and to actually become embraced and be part of La Nuestra Familia, right? A very highly well-known prison organization, a very clandestine group, but a group that for the most part is doing their thing. Now, at this time, man, he's around some heavy hitters. He finds himself in the shoe. He starts to get embraced, starts to get indoctrinated, starts to become that one. And moves all the way up into the rank of a Capitan, right? Into the rank of a Capitan. That means he's way high up in this organization. He's sought after, man. He's sought after because he's very influential in the Central Valley, man. He has what it takes to go out there and really get shit together and organize the young raza. Now, at this time, in the late 90s, there was a lot of red on red going on, meaning there was a lot of Norteño barrios going against one another. I know in Merced, it was the west side versus the north side. We was giving them the business. They was bringing it back. It was back and forth. I'm not here to say who was winning the war, Sasuke, because it really wasn't no war. It was just a whole lot of frivolous battles that were being fought. And at the end of the day, Sasuke, nobody was going to win because it was red on red, Norteños killing Norteños. You know, we were depleting our own manpower. And the big vatos that are upstairs, man, that are fucking doing time in the back of the shoe back at them times, they were seeing it for what it was, and they were seeing the depletion of the manpower. Sasuke, they were like, come on now, sit down here. These vatos are fucking killing each other for no other reason than money, women, cars, or things of that nature. We was really gangbanging in the 90s. Okay, but we were gangbanging against the wrong adversaries, the people we were not supposed to gangbang against. And in the meantime, in between time, what was happening were that Sureños from down south were coming from down south and they were establishing strongholds throughout our neighborhoods. They were establishing strongholds all over from the Bay Area, all the way back to LA, and all throughout the Central Valley. And this started to be noticed and recognized. And people like Huerito Gratton, as well as other vatos that were his superiors, were noticing this. So he left prison in 1996 with a mandate. The mandate being you need to somehow get all these young norteños together on the same page and implement El Norte law. You need to put out there that there's to be no red on red, is to cease, and everyone is supposed to come together for the eradication of the Southerns, right? The Southerners. Now at that time, everybody was with it. Everybody that was functioning, that was with it, they knew what time it was. And Huerito got out with an idea. He got out with an idea to implement a rap CD. Now, the rap CD, as you can tell by the thumbnail, was G.U.N, Generations of United Norteños. And I remember myself when that first push started, that first wave, I remember seeing these vatos at Farmers Market, walking down the street, Main Street in Merced, red everywhere. So I was getting Mongolians were flapping in the wind, even longer than mine. And I was like, wow, I felt a presence there. I felt a norteño presence. I felt and I seen something that I had never seen before. It was the coming together of a lot of gente that I didn't recognize. See, in the city of Merced, where I was from, everybody knew everybody. Everyone just lived with everyone's old ladies. Let's get mamones were rampant. Arby's was everywhere. But at the same time, these were norteños from every different city, from Tulare County, from Salas, from Grifas, from Gonza, of course, from San Fran, Oakland, Sacramento on back. And they were all coming together to formulate this plan and plot and to implement what was going on. Basically, was the coming together of all norteños forever forward. Now, I loved this at that time. I was with it because I had been in CYA for several years where I had met a lot of homeboys from everywhere. So I felt the narrative that Huerito was out there pushing was the righteous one. So Sasuke, I was in for a penny and in with 10 pounds. Sasuke, allegedly, right? Everybody was doing their thing. And I remember going to Modesto, California. Yes, indeed, I wrote graffiti on the bus. I went to Modesto and indubitably there was a junta that was thrown. And there were several norteños from all kinds of different cities. And we all got told at the same time, and this is what it's going to be like. This is what it is. You are no longer to engage in drive-bys or red-on-red crime. Everybody will go against the opposition, being the Southern Mexicans from up north. Not necessarily the Sureños from down south, because they were doing their thing. They didn't care about us. We could care less about what they had going on. But there were Norteños, Sureños that were establishing up north, and we were to eradicate them if we could. And they were going at us likewise. It was NKSK all day. Everybody was getting their issue on. Now, it wasn't a good look in hindsight. In retrospect, looking back, I understand that we were killing our own brown people. Whether they were from the north or the south, that didn't matter. But at the same time, this was gangbanging 101. This is what it was. This was the real shit. And this vato, Huerito Gratton, was instrumental in pushing that at the dictation of someone who told him to. We're not going to speak on his name. Anyway, so this G.U.N album came out. And this put it on the map. This was the reasoning behind everything we were doing. Everybody was bumping this. I remember at this time, you couldn't cruise in the Central Valle, in the Bay Area, down any fucking block or street without hearing the CD bump. I got the Sierra Cranca. It definitely was pumping. Huerito Gratton, of course, hooked up with a local rapper out of Tracy, California named Sir Dino, David Rocha, and of course, man, they implemented this mandate together. They wrote this CD together. They got on this. And of course, it was not under Darkroom Familia like several people like to believe. It was under a new label called North Star Records. And I remember when the CD came out, man, seeing all these norteños, I was like, we made it, homie. We finally made it. We're going Hollywood. Right? We were all of the assumption that the Norte was finally being put on the map. It was finally going to be mainstream. People were going to feel us. Oh, yeah, you're going to feel me, right? And Huerito was the man behind this. So he had a lot of respect. I remember seeing him a couple times in the city of Merced, and he was a very highly respected individual. And I knew he was someone of status. I knew he was a big homie. I knew he was that man, but I never got into the details of the story because Sasuke, I wasn't in position to ask. Okay, now a lot of people will say, hey man, I used to talk to Huerito like this and like that and like that. And you know what I mean? But for the most part, this vato was very minimal with his words. He spoke to who he needed to speak to, and he kept it pushing. He was very business orientated. Now this album did generate a lot of money. It basically generated about $80,000 in revenue that's known of. I mean, it was everywhere. It was Music Land, Sam Goody, The Warehouse, Sasuke. You could buy it at the local Ramate, right? And Sasuke, we're going to need our issue off that too. Break our percentage off. Separate ours from yours, right? It was going down. There was posters. There was vatos that were wearing t-shirts, G.U.N. I mean, it was just out there. And I remember what happened was the Placas started to take notice and they started to try to cease and desist, meaning that they went to Sam Goody's. It started in Watsonville. In fact, there was a fucking sheriff in Watsonville who started to rally his troops, man. They started to protest. And basically, Sam Goody's wanted nothing to do with this CD after they had already sold so many units. Even though it was banging out there, everybody was buying it. They wanted nothing to do with this because the authorities had got at him and told him that this one CD right here was pushing a narrative that they weren't ready for. Oh yes, they didn't want to be involved. So they stopped selling it. So it became a rare jewel. It was something hard to find. I remember I did have it on tape as well as CD. It seemed like everyone had it. So I was we're doing líneas at the tape y todo, right? It was everywhere. I remember that when the placas used to pull you over, if you were bumping G.U.N. or you did have the CD, they would break it. They would take it. In some cases, they try to validate you as a gang member in some cities, or just give you some type of charges saying you were promoting gang activity at the behest of the NF. Of course, that was all frivolous antics. That was just talk. You would get in and get out, get OR, released on your own recognizance, and that's what it was. But they were rocking that. They were pushing that. These cops were mad because they knew what was behind the CD and who was behind it. Now, at the same time, I'm not here to tell you who was behind it, why they were behind it, and any of that. Hey, I'll let you read between the lines. But I will say that it was a very hot CD that Huerito Gratton had pushed. Now, Huerito found himself in a situation where he got back incarcerated. And the money was funny, meaning the funds that he had generated from this CD didn't get to the right hands they needed to get to. So I was getting, in life, everybody will answer to someone. You will pay to play. Oh, yes, indeed. And where are your antennas when you think you're not? I'm going to tell you where they aren't. Motherfuckers will chop those cucarachas off. You will pay, right? And obviously, this vato was having it his way. He was out there with the big wig, making money out on the calles. He decided that if for some other reason, he wasn't going to give the feria like he was supposed to. And he found himself in bad standings, meaning he found himself under suspicion of holding out on the casa, holding out on the household. You don't do that. When it comes to money, man, shit gets real funny, okay? And this vato was out there having it. Now, of course, he gets incarcerated and he finds out, man, that it's an icky, sticky situation. Okay, so one day he gets out, he gets pulled over, he gets a lot of dope in the car, so vatos are looking at him some type of way. He decides that if for no other reason, the time is now, the time is to start working with the authorities to get away from this life. Now, whether he was conflicted, if there was some confliction going on, if he just was done, he was tired of the movement, he was tired of everything that it entailed. Sasuke, he was tired of being responsible for a lot of crime that was going on out there. That's neither here nor there. I can't speak on that because I wasn't the fucking vato in the backseat of the car whispering in his ear, the devil or angel. But I will tell you this, for no other reason, this vato decided that he was going to start working with the authorities. And he started to become instrumental in a RICO indictment that they were working on called the Black Widow Operation. Okay, the Black Widow Operation was to become one of the biggest RICO acts ever against the Nuestra Familia, where several of the vatos from the Mesa, meaning the guys that were really doing big things, we're not going to say their names right here, got brought down. You know, they got brought down and everyone got taken down. There was a lot of people that were innocent bystanders that got taken down in this. This was a very big operation. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say that he was the catalyst for bringing everyone down. There were several individuals working behind the scenes, CIs before Huerito, but Huerito was the most well-known just because of the CD and because his name was out there. Now, of course, when that happens, he starts to tell on a little bit more people, man. He starts to just give up the ghost and give up names. Now, I'm not going to sit here and say, hey, the vato's fucking all bad or whatever. I'm going to let you guys go ahead and decide that. I'm just going to say, man, it was a shock to everyone when it came out that Huerito was the one, after pushing all this crime and pushing all this shit on the streets, allegedly was giving up the ghost, right? Was basically turning turncoat on his own people. It happens in life. We don't know what this guy's faced with. We don't know what he was thinking. We don't know if he was hitting 10 to 2. At the end of the day, he did what he does and he does what he did. And that's that. But Huerito Gratton, it seems like up until that point, everything that he lived for was now non-existent. It didn't count anymore. And that's what they say. Anything you've done prior to this doesn't count. But nobody can deny the historia that the historic figure that he plays into the historia of the Norte when it comes to that, man. He was the one that was out there generating that. He was the face of the people. That's a fact, man. I seen him with my own 4 eyes. He was right there. I was right there. Boop, 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 boop. It was what it was. Anyways, he eventually gravitated out of state, man. What happens is after working with the feds, after working with the authorities, of course, Operation Black Widow does happen, or it starts to become implemented, man, where people are in court. They're facing federal RICO charges, racketeering acts. It ain't cool. It ain't nothing nice, man. And of course, all eyes on him. There's an all-point bulletin on Huerito. He can't go nowhere's homes without being spotted. And if he goes anywhere, Sasuke, you already know there's a bluebird on his shoulder. Can he kill it? Yes, we can. Motherfuckers was trying to get him. So he found himself out of state several times. You know, he had his handlers take him here, take him there. And eventually what happens is in 2008, he gets caught up in a DUI, right? He finds himself, this is the story, right? It's always been a mystery, but I guess he's intoxicated at 1 a.m. and he's backing up his car on the highway where he hits another car or a divider or something. and he ends up dead, right? Or this was the word. Now, no one ever seen his body besides his familia, man. I'm sure his familia will chime in and say what happened one way or the other. And I'm not here to disrespect your guys' father. I'm not here to disrespect your husband or your son. But at the same time, I will say, man, it was always a mystery to whether he passed or he didn't. No one ever knew. There was always questions out there. Do you think Huerito really died? Or do you think they fucking hit him over there in Rancho Cucamonga somewhere? I can't call it like an alcoholic, but what I will tell you is, according to the obituary and everything, the vato is gone. He is no longer with us. Okay? But his legacy still is. So you'll never take away what that man brought to the table. You know, in 1997, that album was released, man, and his footprints and his fingerprints were all over it. It was a well-known CD. And in 1998, they re-released it. I remember that. They re-released it. Darkroom Familia did. And it was out there, man. It was a CD that I still own to this day. So that gets put up in the vault because it's like a jewel. It's like a diamond when it shines, right? And the diamond in the rough. At the same time, do I promote what was told to do on that tape, you know, which was basically the directive of kill every opposition that you run into? Charlie, I'm neither here for that, to spit violence, but I spit unity. But at the same time, I will say that Huerito Gratton was on the forefront of that. Now, his life was a trip. It was a trip to achieve that much of hierarchy, to grind, and I'm sure he went through a lot of turmoil, a lot of toiling in that soil to get where he was. Just to give it up, man. You have to think that something made him flip. Something made him go that route. Vatos don't usually flip unless they're facing fucking hundreds of years. Sabes que they have familia that they want to be with. You know, there's always reasoning that goes into it. For the most part, a lot of these guys are lifers already. They have nothing to look forward to. And sabes que they're in it to win it. Vato, that's just plain and simple, period. But at this time, I guess Huerito decided for no other reason he should do that. What makes him so different and what puts his name out there was people in the Central Valle, we knew who he was. You know, he was on a lot of these Darkroom Familia movies. He was on the cover of the CD. His name was out there, was circulating. I remember people used to be like, hey, Huerito's going to be over here or he's going to be over there. I was like, orale, you know what I mean? He was looked at and admonished as the big homie, the one. And yes, he was running the Central Valle with the iron fist at the dictation of some big homeboys incarcerated, allegedly. But this is just the way it is. So to see him flip and to see him go down the way he did, it was very unfortunate, but it happens. You know what happens in life. I'm not here to knock anyone, man, that's been put in that position, because I myself have never been put in that position, so I can't speak on them. Transparency is key. You know, vatos are transparent. It's key. Anyways, with that being said, I will say this. Did he die? That's always been a question to me. I don't know. You know, I've always thought the negative. I've always thought Charlie, man. I've always thought that they've seen this as a way to get him to wiggle. Put it out there so that way he doesn't have a target on his back and he can live his life kosher the way he wants to. But it's like, I don't know. Is it there? It's like a fucking scale, you know what I mean? I don't know how much it weighs, but it weighs something. We'll find out eventually one day, you know what I mean? Until then, I will say this, man. His legacy will continue to live on through that CD. No matter who wants to shit on his name or say anything, man, you can't deny the fact that he put out one of the fucking best-selling CDs ever in Northern California, and the one that basically brought all norteños together as one gente to strive for the betterment of the people. That's a fact, you know what I mean? Anyways, with that being said, this was just a lightweight profile on Huerito Gratton. I wanted to speak a little bit on the G.U.N. CD. For those of you that weren't there, man, you guys just don't know. Vatos that were from down south, I'm sure they've heard of the CD, but they don't recognize how real this CD impacted all gangs in Northern California. Man, the death toll was insurmountable. It was crazy. That's what really was kicking off the North and South war out there in the calles up in Northern California where we're at. It was crazy. Anyways, with that being said, I hope that you move fast with a purpose. I hope that you get everything that you want coming to you. Remember, at the end of the day, it's all about struggling and striving for your familia, man. If you knew better, you do better. We got to do it. If you like these videos, please hit that like and subscribe. There's a notification bell right there. You can touch it, lick it, touch it, rub it, whatever you want to do. I appreciate it. If not, you can hit that thumbs down. Heavy is the head that wears that crown. I'm going to continue to struggle and strive for my people, for my familia, for all the gente, for the brown people, man. It's what we does, cuz, you feel me? And in that fashion, the gun. Bang, bang.